Welcome to another episode of Coaching Football with Brian Clee.
Episode 9, time to get into the details of our coverages. If you watched episode 8, went over in detail what alignments are within our coverages that we're calling and the pre-snap checks that we're going to make. And then also went over the calls. In episode 9 here, we're going to get into very specific details and examples of after we make that pre-snap check, after we see the routes start to develop and we're reading our keys, what calls we're going to make and how we are going to match the final route distributions. So sit back, enjoy, hope you learn a bunch like always. Just in case this is the first time you've stumbled upon an episode on my channel, there's our defensive philosophy. When you start talking about coverages, I think that top bullet point is the most important, is that defense is still played with 11 defenders. As much as a coach, I sometimes, and other coaches, we overlook the play of the defensive line and how important that is in coverage, and that as much as coverage is about the defensive backs and the linebackers, the pass rush by the D-line is equally important in speeding up that decision making and processing that the quarterback makes by making sure the ball comes out quickly. This episode is going to focus on our matches against 2x2 formations. Back in episode 8, which I've linked in the description down below, if you haven't checked it out, please do so. We are going to make a call in the secondary based on the number of detached receivers. If there's 0 detached receivers, we're calling hard. It's going to play like cover 2. 1 detached receiver, we're making a man call. That could be a robber concept or a straight cover 0. Depends on if an outside linebacker is available within that side of the formation. And then against 2 detached receivers, we're going to make a read check, and that will play out as cover 4 or cover 2 based on the release of the number 2 receiver. Our hard cover 2, it's our pre-snap check if you watched episode 8 against no detached receivers. So it could be a nub tight end, or in this picture, a tight end wing. Corners 5x5 off of the tightest receiver, and the safety is 10x1 inside of the number 2 receiver. Can walk up to 8, maybe even 7 yards depending on some scouting report tendencies, downs and distances. First match is going to be boot. We'll start on the defensive right side. The original number 1 receiver goes in motion, so he's becoming the number 3 receiver. Corner has the first out and up. So he sees the outside release by the tight end, the number 1 receiver. He's going to sink, get more vision of everything that's happening. That number 2, the fullback, runs the arrow to the flats. Corner's sinking underneath number 1, and then going to be able to break and match the flats as the ball is thrown. His biggest thing is keeping leverage so that that ball carrier either is forced into the sideline or back to pursuit after the ball is thrown. Again, we're going to be sinking and playing underneath this flag as the corner with underneath leverage to make that throw to the flag a little harder. In the end, we really don't mind giving up a throw to the flats unless you're in a goal-to-go situation. You only got 5 or so yards of field left to defend. We want to make sure we're taking away that deeper route in most situations. Safety kind of has a fastball read here. He has the first up and in. Number 1 here, the tight end is up. He's in the seam. The deep safety is going to work to keep inside leverage and stay on top of it. He's taken away again the post because that is one of the weaknesses of middle field open or split safety coverages. Will linebacker, after he reads pass, his job is to help reroute the seam. He's going to be inside and underneath number 1 here. As that route drops further, needs to get his head on the swivel because he's eventually going to need to be responsible for the drag. That becomes the final 3, and he'll drop off at the seam, and that's again why he's playing underneath, so he can hunt and match that final 3. On the defensive left side, we'll start with the corner again. Corner is first out and up. Number 1 is definitely up. Keep outside leverage. Make sure the flag is leveraged. The safety, he has a little bit of a harder read here. Number 2, if he ends up underneath the MAC linebacker gets a fast pass read and gets a good drop, the safety is going to be able to play inside that post and be on top of it real easily. If that drag ends up being behind the linebacker level, safety's working on protecting the middle and defending that post, and when that breaks off horizontally, he can finally match that post completely. And again, we're trying to keep inside and on top leverage. MAC linebacker, if that tight end is releasing over top of him, he's big time going to get hands on. As it starts to cross, he's going to yell cross. That will linebacker, that is his key to get off the seam and leverage and match that drag. And then lastly, in this picture, our stud linebacker, he's going to match the fake by the running back here. Does a pretty good job. I mean, see fake, go tackle it. If it continues out, really, as much as they could wheel this guy, that's going to be really slow developing. We're more worried about them setting up some sort of screen, and it's the stud linebacker's job to match that out in the flats. Right here, I've covered this in a previous episode about defending the full house T. The corner is going to have first out and up. Number 1 is definitely out and working up. So match that with outside leverage. Play underneath of it because you're responsible for the flats. And if they do throw this pivot and out route, the corner needs to come provide the outside leverage on it after it's thrown. But until then, sink and play underneath the flag or the post corner to help that safety protect the post. Safety's going to keep, he's keying that number 2. Number 2 is in, but our will linebacker, in almost all cases when we get this route, our inside linebackers will match that tight end when he slams them, kind of faking like a down block. And our inside linebackers do a good job of matching that. So first up and in, that's not up, it's only in. So push, and again, you're more responsible for the up. That is the deep route by number 1. Keep inside leverage and stay on top. Will linebacker is going to be trailing that out route, and that's again why the corner needs to be ready to break on a ball thrown to the flats. On the defensive left side, corner is first out and up. 1 is out immediately. Sink, get depth, be able to keep outside leverage on that route, but play underneath the flag. Safety, kind of fastball read, that is definitely up. So he's going to match number 2 there, keep inside and then on top leverage. MAC linebacker, go reroute the seam and then keep looking for work. Number 3 is not in a route, so you're free to help wherever needed. We'll game plan that as much as possible of which receiver is the better receiver. Do we want to stay underneath and inside of the flag there, or do we want to help out? Is the wing the better ball player? Our stud linebacker is going to feel that outside release is a reach. He's going to fight it. And then what our guys do, by and large, once they fight that reach block, they'll typically sink underneath of it and then either break and go help once the ball is thrown into the flats, or you've made sure the window that the safety has to defend stays really, really small. Our man alignments, again, we're calling this against one detached receiver when that split gets bigger than 8 to 10 yards, and that safety can't really help the corner on some sort of vertical. If two's out and one's vertical, we're making this pre-snap check. And then our pre-snap check of read, that is when we get two detached receivers. Right now, if two is out, the split is 8 yards or less, the safety can get over top of number one and help that corner, and they can end up switching that. So, and we can be making any call on either side. The safety in this picture puts us in read. We got two detached. The safety on the right, our free safety to the field, he's putting us in man because we got one detached. So the read side first, we're keying number two. All three guys, the corner, the deep safety, and our will linebacker in this picture are keying that release of two. If the will linebacker is able to get hands on two at all, we're yelling seam. That tells the corner keep dropping and play your quarter, essentially. Keep outside leverage on everything. And the deep safety, keep dropping. Again, protect against the post. So keep inside and on top leverage. Will linebacker reroutes two. His rules are play 2-1-3. So reroute two, get eyes to one. One sitting on a hitch. Push through two. Again, he's helping that safety in a split safety coverage. We're always conscious of teams are going to try and throw the post. So push that guy out, play through him, and expand to the flats. On the man side, our corner is man on one all the way here. Our stud linebacker gets an outside release, going to fight it like a reach block. Mac linebacker 3 is fast to the flats, so he's going to be yelling push. That tells the stud stop carrying 2, expand, have some depth, and definitely keep outside leverage on the back going to the flats. Mac linebacker, he sees that push, he picks up the new 2. Well, the new 3, the old 2 becomes the new 3. Mac linebacker reroutes the seams anytime he gets a push and is playing underneath that flag route there. And the free safety, again, is inside on top leverage. Definitely, this illustrates the weakness of man coverage and making that call. The flag area there is a lot of space for the quarterback to throw to, so that might be a situation where we end up actually checking to stress on this side if that's something that teams do regularly, especially to the field side. We're read to the field here, and we're man to the boundary. 2 detached, we're checking read. 1 detached, we're checking man. Our corner is key in 2. We would most likely be calling seam by that number 2 receiver. Our stud linebacker very likely, most cases, is going to get hands on, reroute 2, expand, push him outside. Corner keeps sinking. He's going to keep outside leverage on 1 unless he feels like the safety's not getting there. At some point, our DB coach, my head coach, Joe Stevens, does a great job of coaching those guys to work back to keeping leverage to the inside and enforcing that harder fade outside throw to number 1. Stud linebacker gets a push call from the Mac linebacker. Work through 2, you're leaving him. And Mac linebacker is going to push out and match 2 as 2 becomes the final 3. 3 was fast to the flats. Stud linebacker keeps outside leverage on that. And then the free safety is going to work over to help. Ultimately, number 2 might have us out leveraged here some. So that is a case of that free in that corner. The leverage on one is super important there. We don't need the safety screaming down to that. So if he gets over and matches one with the inside leverage, the corner is able to keep outside leverage as the ball is thrown, break on the out. Into the man match over here, or the man check. Will linebacker reroute the seam, stay on it. Corner is man all the way on number one. He's assuming he doesn't have help from the deep safety here. Deep safety ends up being able to be a bit of a robber. He sees our linebacker is able to match and run with two on the seam here, and then the out. He can stay deep and help the corner against number one a little bit. Field side, we're in man. Boundary side, we're in read. Two detached is read, one detached is man. Field side first, corner's inside leverage on number one. Man all the way. Free safety, he gets a cross, sink for depth, look for work, and you're going post to deep crosser, so it would be a little bit of which receiver is better according to scouting and game plan. Is it that number one to the field, or is it that one of the guys over here of where that free safety really needs to help? Keep inside leverage on the post is the most important thing. So he's going to, without scouting, he's going to be helping with that post and provide the corner a little extra support. Mac linebacker communicates the cross, sink, crosser going, crosser coming. Should be able to match that drag, especially without any sort of run action. He's yelling push, cross here, and then push. Stud linebacker has a fast three. He's going to push out, keep outside leverage. On the read side, we've got a seam all the way. Will linebacker reroutes. He hears cross from the Mac linebacker. He knows a new number two is coming to his side. Head on a swivel, locate him, and wall him from getting all the way to the other sideline and man-to-man. After that, corner, he sinks with the seam. That seam breaks off as a dig. Eventually, as you're getting downfield, work back to inside leverage and force air under the ball, make the sideline an extra defender. And the deep safety there, he's got seam. And right now, this is where the offense can put the defense in a bit of a bind. After about 10 yards, we tell our guys, you've matched something, man it at that point. So that drag breaks across the field. There's no posts happening. Run with it. Try to keep leverage to the inside because, again, you're protecting the post. But you should end up getting help from inside linebacker as this thing breaks off horizontally. And again, depending on what receiver they're trying to hit, based on scouting, that free safety to the field might also be able to help on that drag. We would be read. We could actually be checking to our hard cover 2 on this side with the tight split of 1 and 2. To the field side, we're also going to be read. So we could be combining any of our checks based on the receivers. So right here, two starts in the seam, but they immediately cross, and teams will do this to set up like a post flag where they're going to break off at about 8 yards. So we would ultimately be yelling cross here, which is letting the safety and the corner know to sink, get your head on a swivel, and play your quarters really. Match the final deep route that's coming to you. And in this case, 2 ends up being the vertical route. He's, I guess, the new number 1 really in the route distribution. Corner's going to be outside leverage. Deep safety is going to be inside leverage. Deep safety is going to be able to keep that inside leverage and run with it. Once a receiver gets to 10 yards, man him up. Corner will be right behind him if he does some sort of stop as he's dragging across. Will linebacker starts to see the seam by 2, but then that cross immediately goes across his face, so he's yelling crosser going, crosser coming is something we say all the time there. He's going to match the new final 2 to his side. Mac linebacker hears that cross, sees the cross by his number 2 on the other side of the formation, and then also has that fast 3, so he'd be yelling push. Stud linebacker knows don't chase crosser. I hear push, or I see push by number 3. Push out, keep outside leverage. Mac linebacker matches the final new number 3. The original number 3 becomes the final number 2. That's the stud linebacker matching that. Sink though, and again, be able to make sure there's a little air under the ball thrown to the number 1 receiver and be able to keep pushing out and match number 3 in the flats. Free safety gets cross, sink, look for work, and again, the work that we're looking for is defend the post, protect that deep middle. Corner outside leverage, and he sees the cross by 2 that he knows he should have that safety help there. I can stay outside leverage because the safety will have inside leverage. Read on both sides. We'll start on the field side. Seam by 2. Mac linebacker gets hands on, reroute. Deep safety keeps inside leverage. As that Mac linebacker, he is our 2-1-3 player. 3's on the other side, probably not a threat pre-snap, post-snap, definitely not. So reroute 2, get eyes to 1. You are the guy that's going to wall and have inside leverage on number 1. The corner, both by alignment and by rule, he's outside of number 1, keeps outside on top leverage as it drives into the Mac linebacker. If he is really confident with that Mac linebacker being on that drag route, he could actually continue to drop, and again, it would be who's the better receiver. Is there guy, is there dude at number 2, or is he number 1? Are they running this to hit that seam, or are they running the seam to clear things out to hit that dig to 1? So again, little game plan situation. Some are 7-on-7. I'm expecting the corner to do this, and we're totally fine if that ends up happening. Ideally, we get the perfect match by the Mac linebacker underneath, and we get the double on the deeper route in most situations. On the boundary side, this is very similar. Go back real quick. Very similar to the releases on what is a mesh concept with the crossers and 1 and 2 crossing immediately. So now, if we mistakenly call that cross, it's not the complete end of the world, because the corner's still zoning his quarter and the safety's still zoning his corner. The corner's keeping outside leverage. The free safety's working to keep inside leverage. Really, we should be calling that seam because both guys are vertical. Our outside linebacker, our Bob linebacker, should be able to get hands on the inside seam of that. And then the Will linebacker, he's controlling 3. 3's fast to the flats, so he's going to be yelling push. Our outside linebacker gets the reroute of the inside seam and then pushes through that route to be able to match 3. And then safety and corner just have to be patient. They're sinking, looking for work, and eventually those 2 routes they'll separate because they're not going to go to the same spot on the field. Safety, you take the inside one. Corner, you take the outside one. Corner, as you get closer to the sideline, work back to inside leverage and make that sideline an extra defender. Will linebacker, after the push, gets his eyes to the first route coming inside. 1 is becoming the new 2, running the post here. So match that and play underneath. If he's able to match that and run with that, safety can stay out. Safety is always playing inside of that, but the safety can play even more on top when the will linebacker continues to run with that. Here we go. We've got an alert on both sides, so I'm only going to talk, really, I guess I'll talk about the left side here. Corner 2 is out immediately. There's no chance, especially of a will linebacker in this case, of getting hands out on that number 2. So we're all yelling alert. Corner matches 2 with outside leverage. Needs to run through the outside shoulder of 1 because that's going to give the deep safety time to get out over top of number 1 in the case of fake bubble go. So now we got the alert called and they go fake bubble go on us. Corner again is working through the outside of 1, keeping leverage on 1 blocking him to squeeze him back as much as possible to the deep safety. And the deep safety, as soon as he sees alert, eyes go to 1, and he's anticipating going to match a vertical by 1. So again, the corner technique, once we get an alert, is really, really important. Come through the outside of number 1. You don't go inside because number 1, the ball gets thrown and that 1 pins you inside. The bubble's going to run for days. And then number 2, you're helping out your teammate by forcing that route to work inside some to not be slowed down. And really, really important here is the linebacker support. He sees that alert by 2. His eyes are also going to 1. So the place that they really stress you offensively is when 1, instead of going vertical, our guys anticipating running and matching a vertical on fake bubble go, he can maybe open his hips a little bit too much and not have to worry about the slant, because our linebackers should be supporting that slant as it's underneath route. So that deep safety, get eyes to 1, read the body language. Again, both of these, that 1 receiver stems it and makes it look a little bit like a slant. Keep working to get on top of him, way outside, and then keep vision on him. If he breaks that off as a slant, put your foot in the ground, come match it, keep the inside leverage. Don't just run past him and go cover the deep shot here. Actually match his route, don't cover grass, and then the linebackers playing underneath that slant, forcing that slant right back into the laps of the safety is what lets our safeties be really, really helpful against fake bubble go.
As always, guys, if you have questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Check me out and follow me on Twitter at Coach Klee. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. And if you have anything that maybe requires a longer response, hit me up at coachbrienklee@gmail.com. Thanks as always for tuning in. See you again.